All right, guys, thanks so much for listening to another episode of the CX Chronicles podcast. I'm your host, Adrian Brady Chizana. Super excited for today's guest, guys. We have an awesome customer-focused business leader who's been doing this stuff for a long time. Tony Lama, SVP and GM of Product at Avaya. Welcome to the CX Chronicles podcast, my friend.
Thanks, Adrian. Appreciate it. It's great to be here with you all.
100%. So, guys, number one, Tony has an incredible background. He's worked at some global leading companies. He's been working with customers, product, frontline staff. Tony, I want you to tell the story. Why don't you take a couple
Sure.
minutes to kind of give our listeners a sense for some of the stepping stones and how you got into this whole world that you're in today, leading product at Avaya.
Yeah, it's interesting. I've been in, thank you, Adrian, again for the opportunity. I've been in in the contact center technology space for really the entirety of my professional career. So about 27 years. I started at a company that today is known as Avaya, but many moons ago was called Aspect. I started as a courseware developer and writer and technical writer, and spent about 18 years at Aspect. And over those many years, wore a number of different hats from, courseware developer and writer to sales engineer to project manager doing the deployments, and then ultimately helped then Aspect as they were starting to think about the migration or the evolution of that company from on-prem provider to the cloud. Helped bring two of their cloud offerings to market very, very early on. Spent some time at AWS, where I was part of the Amazon Connect launch team, and a great and wonderful experience. Great guys over there and team over there. Was at Twilio, led the Twilio Flex contact center business on the go-to-market side for about 3-ish years. Then did a couple startups. Ended up at Edify, which is the story right before the Avaya one begins. And Edify, I joined as a CRO, ultimately was a CEO, but the company had built some amazing technology that really excited me. For me, it was kind of like the bringing together of the 24 years of experiences into one company, one set of offerings that was incredibly nimble, could be deployed on-prem, in the cloud, did full end-to-end orchestration, fall in love with it. And then we decided to put the company out for sale. Avaya was a perfect opportunity and a match. Here we had a company with a great brand, ton of customer loyalty, known for reliability, uptime, mission-critical contact centers. We had an incredible, very, very modern set of capabilities, and it was a perfect marriage. So about last May, I joined Avaya through the acquisition. The entire Edify team joined us, and here we are, almost 9 months later, and I'm leading product here at Avaya. So great to be here with you again, Adrian. I hope that was enough.
Number one, that was perfect, and thank you for setting the stage and adding all that color. But like, bunch of questions to dive right into before we even get into the pillars. So number one,
Yeah.
um, it's funny for many of our listeners having an opportunity at some point in your career to spend 18 years at a business. I number one, that is it's hard. You don't see that this day and age in terms of like people are so used to moving around different companies. What kept you at a place for 18 years, and then what was the draw that made you must like have loved what you guys were doing with your customers, what you were doing with your product, and what you were learning or what you were being a part of every day? I just need you to expand on that a little bit before we even get into the other global companies that you had the opportunity to work at.
One, I love the CX space. Like what I was doing, I absolutely enjoyed being able to see the intersection of technology and business and how customer problems were genuinely being solved is something that I absolutely have always enjoyed. When I was at Aspect, there was always an opportunity for me to reinvent myself. I was a young, high energy guy who just had a strong sense of intellectual curiosity. I was always wanting to learn more, asking for those opportunities. Like every 2 years, I kind of grew bored. I'd be like, I need to do something different. What is interesting? What do I want to do next? And I've been fortunate to have had an amazing set of leaders over the many years that have allowed me. Obviously, I earned my right, but certainly have continued to push me along and given me these opportunities to do different things. I mean, I've led a support team. I was once a Sybase certified database engineer. Like, there's a lot of things I've done over the course of those 18 years, but I was never afraid to ask for the next step and the next opportunity. And I also really kind of went above and beyond and went out of my way to forge relationships with senior leaders
Yeah. Yep.
and uh, and ask humbly for guidance and mentorship. And over
Yep.
the years, that made me a better individual contributor. That made me a better manager eventually, and ultimately, I think a better exec and leader.
I love that, man. And thank you for sharing that. And listeners, like, hit pause and go back to what Tony just said. You're not going to get anything in life if you don't go ask for it, right? You got to ask. The other thing, too, you put yourself in part of having an insatiable appetite for learning and development and learning more. Guys, that's how you begin to not only hone any type of craft, but you start to develop all these different areas of understanding, comprehension, possibilities. And then when you start to talk about things you're seeing with customers, things you're seeing with employees, things that you're seeing that could be codified by product, this makes a lot of sense. And it also makes a lot
Yeah,
of sense to where when you think about like personal playbooks, and Tony, every episode I go into this in terms of trying to understand some of our amazing guests, how they kind of built their playbooks. But like, guys, that's some of the stuff that it takes to be able to even set yourself up
yeah,
for being able
yeah.
to go and helping companies like AWS or like Twilio, and then now Avaya. And one last question before we get into Avaya, before we get into team, but Edify, super interesting. We've only had a handful of guests that had the opportunity to basically build, grow, optimize a business that then they were able to sell to another business where they were able to go with it and move into that type of a new organization that's got different types of customer opportunities, different types of gravitas around who they can put you in front of, different ways that your tool or your solution or your services can be applied to a much bigger portfolio. That is pretty awesome. I think one question I have for you is, um, what were what was it like in the first year or so of like when you knew that there's going to be opportunity to work with Vaya? What were some of the things that go into making that type of a change or making that type of a shift and bringing
Yeah.
your team into this much larger organization?
I mean, so we were in a very unique position. The When I took the reins as the CEO, we had built some amazing technology, but really had kind of run out of runway. And we started to evaluate what were the options. We could go raise additional capital. We could potentially start a process to sell the company. And I and the team and the board, we had very quickly recognized that there were some smart folks that built some really amazing technology, and that we saw an opportunity to really go take this technology and go potentially talk to some vendors that we knew had amazing brand recognition and were known for great reliability, were loved by their customers, but maybe needed a little bit of that innovation. So we created a list, and Avaya was on there. We knew Avaya had certainly been evolving, had evolved through some difficult times, and we made a connection, and they were equally as interested. I think I may be answering your question. If you need to
You
redirect me,
absolutely are. You
that.
absolutely are.
Um,
And
but
Tony,
it,
I ask because there's so many of our listeners, they're founders, that are people that are building companies that will inevitably, some of the best ones, will inevitably have an opportunity where they're what they built, what they crafted, what they curated is going to be extremely valuable to the right type of future partner. And I think it's interesting.
yeah,
A lot of people that have had those experiences or were able to see what that looks like and then get the
yeah.
the fruits of being a part of today, as SVP and GM of product, building inside of a company like Avaya and taking all those lessons.
At Edify, I'd love to say that this was like there was some one thing that we did, but the one thing that was important to me was to surround myself with some of the best and brightest professionals that knew the space. Because I knew that as we were going to start this process, be that go raise money or go sell the company, that I needed people around me that would also lend to the credibility of what we were doing. So I brought in a CTO that I had worked with, David Funk, who now is our chief architect here at Avaya. David had been a CTO at Aspect, had knew the space very, very well, brought him on board. We had a CFO that had experience and had credibility. We had a supporting team, an engineering group that in front of the Avaya and others really kind of allowed us to earn the credibility and allowed us to demonstrate that we weren't just some guys who got lucky and built some cool stuff, but we had depth and understanding of the space. And when we went to Avaya, they made it very clear to us, and we're maybe going off on a tangent here, but like they said to me,
I
Tony,
love it. This is perfect.
this isn't just about the tech. We're actually acquiring the people
Yep.
because they needed this kind of startup-y mentality, and this
Yep.
is how I wanted it. They wanted the technology because they saw tremendous value, but they're like, you and your team bring a new way of looking at things, a fail fast kind of way of operating, and inspect and iterate all the time in everything that you do, way of operating that we need. And we'd love to bring your entire team over. So for me, it wasn't just about selling the technology, it was also about landing the humans,
Yep.
right? Because we had a lot of great people, and I was able to say that with few exceptions, we landed everyone in the company.
That's so a couple of things, man. Number one, thank you for sharing that. But number two, you're absolutely right. There's something interesting about when a smaller business that's able to be shifty, agile, pitch, pivot, bounce around. Like, come on. Number one, it's fun. But when that type of energy and that type of group, and to your point, the right type of credible, experienced leaders and builders can come into a larger entity. Let's call it what and it's nothing against big companies. Everybody knows that's listening to the show. It becomes harder to do that as companies grow and as they get bigger. There's more complexity. There's more nuances to change management. There's more risk. Let's call it what it is. There's more risk. Things are way more, the stakes are way higher. But it's refreshing. It's refreshing to get a burst of a group coming in like that and looking at things differently, proving how you can safely iterate quickly. You can do live testing to get to an answer faster. Everything doesn't have to be slow. I love that. I love it. Tony, I'd love to jump into the first pillar of team. Let's talk about Avaya. And let's talk about your team at
Yeah,
Avaya today. Give us, spend a couple minutes kind of talking about number one, Avaya, and what you guys are doing. And number two, I'd love to kind of learn a little bit about your team and some of the things that you're kind of doing on the day-to-day basis at Avaya today.
sure. I'll tell you that I'm absolutely enjoying every day at Avaya. We're a company that is solely focused on powering communications for some of the largest global enterprises and governments across the globe. Um, and and is a responsibility that we take very, very seriously because we're not building solutions for SMB. We're building solutions that sometimes save lives, power government services, power real enterprise, and help enterprises really solve problems and do that reliably. So it's a responsibility that we that we take very seriously at Avaya. And my team, which is the product organization, um, uh, is comprised of some of the brightest, most innovative individuals that really have a deep passion and understanding and appreciation for what it is that we're doing and are open to regularly evolving as humans and as a team. And it's awesome. You've got folks that have been on my team and have been at Avaya for 15 plus years. And then you have others that are newer. So you've got that good blend of seniority and tenure with that edginess, which I think every organization should try to have is that kind of good balance of experience plus lack of fear or fearlessness, right?
Yeah.
So
And you know what? When you say
I,
it like that, is there a name for that? Because you're right. It's almost like there's not a super easy way of being able to gauge why that's so critical. We had another guest on the
right.
show a few months ago who was talking about he was in a market research agency, and he was literally talking about what you just said, Tony. He talked about how having the blend of some of the older, wiser, very experienced market research executives that were at the time kind of not let's just say less hot on some of the new digital tendencies or the new digital channels and mediums that they were trying to hone in on, but like the blend of expertise plus, let's call it what it is, you there might be naivety around not knowing what you don't know, but by pushing on certain things that you know are important to a customer or a market base,
Right.
together the two can kind of meet in the middle, and all of a sudden there's some power, there's some energy, there's some real possibilities there.
You need that fresh energy because those are the folks that are not afraid to say, why are we doing that? And
Yeah, right.
often, and Soren, who was our chief product and technology officer, and I, we just actually had a conversation about this, about the importance of surfacing those voices that in many large organizations are afraid of sharing what they really are thinking. And I'll tell you, I can share with you what we're doing to solve for that. But you want those fresh people that aren't afraid of asking those tough questions, because sometimes it's that one person that's asked that question that makes everybody go, well, it's right. We've kind of just been doing it this way because this is how I learned to do it, how the
Absolutely.
previous team told me we would do it.
Yep.
And no one ever challenged the way the way we're operating. So this allows us to regularly be inspecting and challenging each other and ourselves on, don't let's just assume that this is the right thing to do because we've been doing it for 20 years. Let's constantly and regularly challenge yourself. But you need those people to be able that aren't afraid, that have that little bit of edginess. One thing that we're doing, which I know you're very keen on processes, is you and I, we did speak prior to this meeting. We talked about the voice of the customer
100%. I knew you were going to go here. Yep. Yep.
but that's one. Let's put a pin in that because I know you're going to be interested in talking about it.
You already
We
know.
are
You already know I'm chomping
we're
on
also
it.
building out a voice of the builder program internally because we obviously have our product and engineering organization. And often engineers, are doing their thing and they're smart but when they're in a large crowd, sometimes they may not always feel that they speak out, say
Yep.
things that maybe are
Yep.
contrary to what their management or their
Yep.
leadership are instructing them to do. So we're building this kind of vehicle by which we're going to surface the voice of the builder to let's just talk about the things that we're doing well, the things that we're not doing well, and how do we get better as an organization? Because what we don't want to do is a ton of navel gazing, right? And assume that what we're doing is right. So even as leaders, and some of us are pretty far removed from the individuals that are genuinely powering this company and moving us forward, right? So this is a way for us to skip levels and have these honest kind of bare knuckle conversations and sometimes battles to really build a better and stronger company and deliver more quality products for our customers. So we talked about the voice of the customer, but we're equally as focused on how do we surface the voice of our own internal engineers who maybe in the past didn't feel like they had a voice, and give them a voice to challenge sometimes the decision that we are making as a leadership team.
So I love that. And you're the first person on the show that's ever talked about a VOB, a voice of a builder.
Yeah. Yeah.
OE, an engineer. And the reason why I love it is, Tony, many of the clients that we've worked with at CX Chronicles, we've done a ton of VOC task forces and we've done a ton of like roundtable SME build outs. And maybe not necessarily at companies like, look, guys, Avaya serves major companies, DirecTV, Aflac, some of these major, huge companies, right? And governments, like Tony just said. So maybe not to that scale, but we've absolutely had a handful of client engagements where we were minimally able to bring somebody from product or engineering close to that table. And number one, voice of builders is fascinating because there's a couple things you get right away. You, in a voice of customer task force that doesn't have a proper product friend in it, it's easy to dream really big, and dreaming big is super important. You got to dream big. You got to be ambitious.
We do.
You got to do it. But it's also really nice to have some realistic expectations around what can we do in the next 30 days? What can we do in the next 90 days? What can we do in the next X number of quarters? And what I've always seen is having a product lens there helps with being a bit more realistic about what we can and can't do from a building perspective. That's number one. And then number two, what I always find fascinating when we're able to have engineers or devs or product specialists in these meetings, the questions are always wildly different than what the customer facing folks are thinking. So what sales is talking about, or what customer success is talking about, or what customer support is talking about, some of the questions that come from the product side are fascinating because they might be said differently. They might be coming from a different a place of thought, but like having that type of level of just swarming of a problem does nothing but help a business. It does nothing but
Absolutely.
enhance a set of products, enhance a set of services. It helps with socialization of the big picture, the big goals around what the hell's going on in a business. I love that. That's awesome.
It has actually saved us of a few potential wrong moves and decisions. And I'm grateful for it. We're actively operationalizing this so that we make it a part of how we operate as a product and technology organization. Because like you said, look, the voice of the customer, as you and I had discussed, like we're building out those mechanisms by which our customer and partner requests
Yep.
are captured with real use cases, and then we really measure not just the financial impact, but also the value creation for our customers. But then look at it through the lens of, how realistically, how much time will it take for us to realistically deliver this,
Yep.
and really starting to make real customer-driven, partner-driven decisions around how we build, what we build. Um, Most product organizations do this as well, I shouldn't say most. That's a gross generalization. But I'll tell you, we have taken it from more than just a marketing sales-led initiative to actually operationalizing it and having it as a formal team and function within the product organization that collects and aggregates customer feedback and ensures that we're capturing the use cases so that as we as the product leadership start to think about what we're going to build, why we're going to build it, and go through the product prioritization exercises, that we're doing that and looking at it through the lens of not just what we think should be built, but doing that through the lens of what we know will deliver outsized value for our customers.
I love that. I love it, Tony. And listeners, I think like one of the big things here is just you could start small. You don't have to be
Yeah,
the size of Avaya. You could be a
totally.
small business, and you're just minimally having high levels of communication or awareness across what customer support or customer success is hearing, and making sure that the product team sees it every single day or every single week. Different appetites for different businesses. But then the other thing
Totally.
too is just Tony. One last thought on this because this is brilliant. There's so many companies that fail on allowing their product leaders or some of their primary builders to load the lips of the sales and the customer success side, because that's another piece, Tony, where like, and you already know where I'm going with this.
I
You
know.
start to sound like an
It's an
expert.
interesting way for you to go that way, but I didn't
Well,
expect you to do that. But I know where you're going. Go ahead.
because think about it, then any salesperson, any customer success
Yeah,
person, any support person, without customers being touched or managed on a phone call, in a
yeah,
person meeting, on an email, and you've got that level of apparent expertise, and they understand, not only do they understand what the problem is, what the issue is, but they literally understand how the technology can or cannot aid in that. People are going to that gives you a different level of credibility, and then on top of it, it's just from a organizational perspective and from a team perspective, that is a team that's powerful, and that's a team that's going to continue to be able to learn, develop, grow, and then socialize all the things that they're seeing. So I love this. Tony, I want to jump into the second pillar of tools. Spend a couple minutes talking about some of the tools that Avaya provides to its customers today, and then I'd love to, if it's possible, share what you can about some of the
yeah.
tools that you and your team have used or that you've used in your career to help build customer experiences and help give builders or developers or engineers an incredible employee experience. I'd love for you to spend a
Yeah.
few minutes talking about tools.
Totally. And the one tool that I want to talk to you about is our experience designer and our orchestration capabilities. And it's the one thing that gets me and actually many of our customers incredibly excited about what we're doing here at Avaya. You and I are consumers, and you know that customer care doesn't begin and end nor end in a contact center. Often, when you're engaging with a brand or a customer, you deal with a myriad of different people. You're maybe engaging over a digital property, a website, maybe talking to a field service engineer that Comcast or Frontier or some other provider, Verizon, sent to your home. You have all of these experiences. You're walking into a bank branch, and that's an experience. Of video kiosk, that's another experience. Today, all of those experiences are powered by different pieces of technology that are all managed in silos. And the reality is that I think that what we are bringing to market is something pretty darn cool that I think is differentiated. And that is our point of view is that's why when people ask me these days, like, hey, Avaya, aren't you guys those call center people? And I'm like, we do more than just call center. We power enterprise conversations
Yeah,
and
yeah.
engagements because call center is just one piece of that puzzle. So we've got this tool called the Experience Designer, which allows you to do a number of things. It allows you to start thinking about these experiences end to end. It allows you to start orchestrating experiences across the enterprise. So we're not just thinking about when somebody calls a 1-800 number, the IVR that actually handles that engagement. Or if you chat and you're dealing with a chatbot, But this same tool can think about experiences and allow a consumer to pop in and out of channels. And also, even after the engagement ends, continue a series of post-call set of actions and workflows that need to be completed. So, like this is a shift in the way contact centers manage and operate their environments and think about conversational and customer experiences, in that they really need to start shifting from building IVRs and self-service tools and thinking about the end-to-end experience. You're shifting from IVR development or self-service development, which certainly is important, to conversational and experience design. And this tool allows you to do that. What makes it really, really powerful, and a number of our competitors in this space, whose names shall go unmentioned, they've gone off and they've built their own conversational AI set of capabilities. Kudos to them. Awesome. But what did DeepSeek just teach us? that space is going to evolve really, really quickly.
Super
And to
fast.
a large degree, just in the last year, what vendors have built to solve for conversational AI is no longer valid. It's out of date. So what we're doing differently is that we're thinking about ourselves as orchestrators of large language models and data, right? Which means you can have within, and I can actually demo this for you, in a single experience, be able to hop in from Salesforce to OpenAI to any other large language model and show it to you all in one single experience. And you can make decisions, right, based on this aggregated view of data you're collecting on a customer to decide, how do I prioritize this engagement? How do I prioritize this customer? How should I treat this? What are the things that I want to do after the actual voice call ends that are important? And that same orchestration tool could be used to manage the experience for the agent. So often we hear in this space that the agents are going away in contact centers. In fact, if you look at some of the data,
They're going to grow.
there's still a ton of hiring that's happening. There's a
There's a
lot
ton
of
of growth.
churn.
Yep. Yep.
Somewhere close to 38,000 job postings a month for contact center agents, right? And that's staggering. What that shows you is there's a lot of churn. So we think AI, and if we start to think about crafting and architecting experiences end to end, we can empower these agents, one, to onboard them quickly, two, not make them hate their jobs, but give them the tools that they need to really deliver the experiences you want. But also from an orchestration perspective, once that call ends and the agent is no longer needed, be able to do the things that you want to do in an automated fashion. I'll give you an example and I'll shut up because I'm sure you have questions. Let's say,
No,
for
this is
example,
awesome. This is awesome, Tony.
let's say, for example, you were calling to make a change to an insurance policy. You finally spoke to a live agent, right? The policy change is made. But now let's say that there's a series of things that need to happen. Maybe you need to provide some proof of your kid's good student
Yep.
to get a good student discount. Maybe you need to receive, for example, a maybe an updated policy doc, some email based on things that you requested during the call. We can now have, after the call, all of those tasks and workflows and completed without ever having to have a live agent involved. But when you look at it from a reporting perspective, be able to see that entire end-to-end experience, right? Even those that extended beyond the walls of the contact center. Anyway, we're excited. I'm excited about this vision and this set of capabilities because we think that for those customers of ours that we still today power large mission critical voice applications, we think we have an opportunity here to show them a way to really start to differentiate themselves and deliver differentiated engagements and services. And we're excited.
So look, that's incredible because for the proper CX and CS nerds that are listening to this show right now, Tony, this is the stuff that we think about it every day, and where my brain goes on everything that you just talked about. There is such a miss by so many businesses not actually taking the time to, number one, move to more of a customer and a user journey type of model or approach, period. And let me expand on this. Number one, you're talking about this on a communication medium perspective where you understand literally how they come into the journey, all the different potential mediums that they could be, or the touch points that they could be touching a customer or touching a business with, right? There's phone calls, emails, chat, there's website, there's in person, there's in field rep agents, everything that you talked about, and it having the ability of finally being able. Number one, it's 2025. Why do we always have to tell people when we call big companies who we are, why we're calling, what's going? Like it's like you got my phone number, you got my email address, you got my ID. So what you're explaining is this is
I feel like I've
proven
been
valid.
doing present. I've been laughing about that for 15 years and nothing has changed. And this space has not evolved and changed. Sorry, just about like, it's the same prompts, it's the same questions, it's the same experience. And it's like the tools are there.
They're all there.
Why aren't companies evolving fast enough?
And then
Right.
take it a step further. Like, and me and you were talking about this before today's show, but like the amount of data, the amount of user data or customer data is almost baffling. And to
It's
not be
baffling.
leveraging some of that user, and let's be more specific for our listeners. You're a software company. You've got all the usability data. You know who's logging in. You know who's utilizing. You know who's using specific parts of a cut of your software. You know who's not. And then
Yeah.
you wonder why sales keep getting missed when some of those very easy to see items aren't being brought into conversation with the customer or into some of the education or the onboarding or into some of the product enhancements or features that where you're pushing for not just adoption but general utilization and verification that people even understand that some of these things are there. That's massive. Now, one thing before I forget.
And by the way, even if we don't have the data, right? This is the tooling that the orchestration, the experience designer we talked about allows you to tap into it. So
Yeah,
even if some of those engagements be started elsewhere, say for example, you're capturing all of your customer journeys in a CDP or some data repository, that's a ton of goodness right there about customer preferences, where they're going, where they're navigating on your site, like how like you can use all of those data points to really craft different delighting kind of delightful experiences for your customers so that they don't hate it every time they call you. And like what a failed and missed opportunity. Like and we just this industry, despite all the technology that's out there, wow, like people are missing it, the opportunity, and it's there.
100% agree. 100%. I couldn't agree with you more. Um, Before we jump off of this topic, because there's so many different places we could bring it, but wrapping up with tools, is there one or two common problems, challenges, or just general consternation points that throughout your career and then today with some of your customers and some of the businesses that you work with, Avaya, is there like one or two things, Tony, that you've seen as a product SME and as a product owner over the years that companies, whether they're big or small, did you keep making the same mistake? Is there like one or two key areas and as it relates to the tech stack or tools or technology that you've just seen company after company after company kind of make a common mistake on that our listeners should be thinking about?
Yeah. Yeah, I can think of one that
I said one or two, Tony. I said one or
I can
two.
think of one. I can think of one big one that's very real for me, for us, here at Avaya, and I've also dealt with this elsewhere. It's the unwillingness to sever the connection with like some of the products that, frankly, are just serving as an anvil
Yeah,
on your ability to innovate and grow as a company.
yeah,
We at Avaya, we are very much hyper focused on um, converging our platforms on one common code base that delivers incredible value for our customers. I think you and I may have talked about this, that Avaya has gone through a product rationalization exercise. At one point, there was over 140 different products.
I was hoping you brought this up. That's exactly where it is. Yep.
How can you possibly be good at anything, right? When you're servicing that many products, right? It's just hard. You've got
Yeah,
to have
absolutely.
engineers, product people, support people, subject matter experts, sales engineers,
Money, money, money.
specialists, the money to operate that sort of model. So we've gotten down to we've realized that we've got to make some tough calls about some of the products that we're going to service going forward. And this will allow us to now start to make investments where our customers genuinely want us to be making investments. But without making those tough calls, you're just going to continue to do like make these regular mistakes and bleed money, and you're going to bleed customers because
And
you're actually
opportunity
not going to
cost.
be able to service them well.
Opportunity costs, customers and
Yeah.
agents, by the way, when you talk about some of the, this is the type of thing that drives employees crazy too. So not only is there a customer experience risk, there's an employee experience risk, and then the money, guys. Always follow the money on that.
So
Tony,
really to just net it out, we're very much hyper focusing on fewer things that we're going to be doing, and we're going to do with them well. We're really excited about taking our customers on this journey with us, getting to that converged set of modern capabilities. And we're respectful, by the way, of the fact that every customer is on their own journey and they want to adopt technology and innovation at their pace and in place, which is a very key important thing because a differentiator for us. Everyone has been convinced that the only way to modernize and innovate is to move everything to the cloud. We think that that is a fallacy. We think that there's an opportunity to bring technology to customers on-prem or in a cloud, regardless of how the customer wants to consume it, because data security and privacy is a real issue. We just want to be that technology and that innovative partner that brings it to you and allows you to consume it however you want. A ton of my competitors have all but abandoned the prem business. We think there's a way to bring modern capabilities on-prem, and we're going to do that. We're really excited about it.
Tony, I want to jump into the third pillar of process. Spend a minute or two kind of talking about, and it could be about Avaya, but I'm interested in the Tony Lama playbook of over all these companies that you've been a part of, and then all the companies that you're serving today at Avaya. How have you sort of wrangled process throughout your career? Has there been a couple different things that you've always sort of used as far as how you document or capture? Have you always put that responsibility to a specific role or someone on your team? What were the ways that you would capture tribal knowledge for both customers and employees? But then on the product side, this is different because usually when I ask this question, I don't have a product me
Yeah, yeah.
sitting across from me. But and then on the product side, like, is there anything different ways that product folks think about process or capturing the to-dos or capturing knowledge or FAQs to be able to sort of lever information that's already known? I'd love for you to spend a minute or two talking about process.
Yeah, and I hope so we talked about the VOCP, the voice of the customer process, right? So like we have this broken set of tools that we've kind of fixed along with a process that allows now our sales humans to capture all of these use case details, customer impact value, make the value statements, and their tool of choice is Salesforce, right? Like so, like this is the interface for our sales humans and our sales engineers. We call them customer engineers that are focusing on engaging with customers. And we don't want them to now go have to adopt a number of different tools, right? So what we do is we've built up the interface that feeds right into our product set of capable tools. So we've built out the entire process end to end so that we capture the data that's important for us. We feed that into the product organization, and then that then gets, obviously processed through our own internal process and prioritization models, which we discussed earlier, and then out it becomes actual work for our engineering partners to build the things that we want. But then what's really important is how are you then making sure and confirming and validating that what you just built is actually delivering the value that you were told would be delivered for your customers? So we're getting pretty maniacal about this, and we're building the entire loop, right? This isn't earth-shattering. I know there's a lot of folks that maybe worked with me potentially that may be listening to this. We've done this before. This is about creating a feedback loop,
Yep.
but making sure that we're capturing the post go live customer interviews as a product team to validate that what we built is delivering the value that we told our customers they would deliver. And if not, fine tuning and iterating and making sure like, where was the breakdown? Was it engineering? Was it in how the use cases were captured? Was it product's understanding of the problem? And this isn't about assigning blame, but about regularly perfecting and improving the process so that ultimately this becomes just a very well-oiled machine in how it operates.
I
Jeff
mean,
Bezos often said, it's all about mechanisms.
it
That little part of me hasn't left me.
it
So
100% is. And here's the other, Tony, when you say it like this,
yeah,
our listeners, like, think about it, guys. The faster as you're building your business, you can start to insert, even if it's a projected ROI, but then now do another column over, projected ROI, actual ROI, and then there's
mhm,
like a third column around customer and user experience and satisfaction. Meaning, did it even matter? So number one, was your initial projected ROI or your potential guess on why this thing is so critical? What did you hit it? What's the delta?
yeah.
But then there's another piece around what you're saying is like, and then most importantly, do the customers care? And then in call center land, do the agents care? Like that is
Yeah.
something that so many SMBs, Tony, you and I both those, they don't even think about. There's mid-market companies don't even know how to do this stuff well, whether they're thinking about their OKRs or their project roadmaps, or they're thinking about executive priorities, or thinking about top threes, top twos.
Yeah.
And, they might be measuring some stuff really well, but this is one that's interesting where a lot of companies fail to think about some of the everything on a product roadmap. What actually passed? Like what's green, what's red, and then how are you closing the loop on it? It's super, super, super interesting.
It is, and we it's going to be fascinating because we just literally codified and started to roll all of this out. It's going to be fascinating to see what the results are, and I'm always I enjoy reading some of these interviews and understanding like, did we hit the mark? Did we miss? Did we miss by how much did we miss? But like so like this is about like wow, like it could be uh, gratifying to know that we're doing the right things, but it also it may be an opportunity for us to be introspective and look at maybe where there's opportunity for improvement
Big time.
and just do what's right and iterate and adjust our processes as needed, right? Like I don't pretend that we're going to get it right and that we're always going to have it right, but it's about creating an environment where we're open to regular inspection and like, hey, fail fast, move on, do what we got to do, and this is a learning process, right? So
I love it,
anyway,
man. I love it, Tony. Let's jump into the fourth and the final pillar of feedback. I'm going to ask this question different for you today. Normally, on all the episodes, I always ask about, and please feel free to share, but like I typically ask about, ideas around things that have worked in your career, or what maybe go-to plays that you always have loved running or have gained a ton of from the customer experience perspective as it relates to feedback, from the employee experience. But I think with you, I'd rather you spend a little bit of time on the product side and answer it how you'd like, but spend a few minutes kind of talking about feedback. Like I'd love to just kind of understand as you've spent time with all these customers, you spent time with all these employees, now you're leading a huge product team. We talked about VOB, so VOB comes right back
yeah,
into play here. But like, can you share a story or two, or maybe one or two lessons over your journey around um, some of the things that have really helped you with mastering and keeping a strong dial on product feedback as it relates to what your customers are doing or saying and seeing? How do you normalize? Because you're in a different role, man. You have to. What I'm hearing is there's normalization, right? It's a typical CX
yeah.
person that has a big service. They can hear the good, they can hear the good, they can hear the ugly. In your role, you got to hear the good, bad, the ugly, but then you got to think about how the hell you're going to build or fix or iterate the solutions to it. I'd love to kind of hear sort of some of the things that you've done over your journey in terms of managing that.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's about staying very, very close to the customers, and I think any good product leader will tell you you've got to spend a good amount of time in the field, and that is watching your sales humans, both technical as well as your non-technical sales humans, deliver the message, observing the room. How are people reacting to this? Are we right that this thing that we built was going to be as exciting as we thought it was going to be? Hearing directly from customers right after a demo, right? Like being there in the field, I think is critical. At least for me. One, I've always loved it because I'm a
Same,
customer
same,
facing
100% agree
human.
with you. Same, love
I
it.
love it. But I know that there are product leaders that don't particularly love to be out in the field spending time with our customers. And one of the so the model that we're adopting here is one of a product team that's far more connected to the go-to-market organization than historically it has been at Avaya. And that is proving to be the results are showing to be positive. One, because there's greater confidence in the roadmap, there's greater confidence in our ability to execute. Customers are seeing that the product leadership is in the field, like David Funk, who's our chief architect, and Soren, who's our chief product and technology officer, myself. Like and even our CEO, Patrick Dennis, spends a lot of time directly talking to our customers. And I think that for me personally, you asked like what's the best vehicle or mechanism by which I capture feedback, and it's being in the field. One, I learned the messaging. Does the messaging work? Is it resonating? Is it connecting with people? Two, are our demos effective? Right? I don't like harbor tour demos, right? So are we being thoughtful and walking into these demos with demos that tell a story about that are going to connect and resonate with the customer? And then, building that relationship so that I can ask as a product leader for the unfiltered truth around like, hey, where are we doing? What are we doing well? What are we not doing well? How can we do better? And this may seem a little sophomorish, almost like basic, but like for me, it's like it's the one thing that I don't know if every leader does, and that is spending time in the field with your people and with your customers.
I love it, man. That was so well said. It's not even funny. Some of my, I think, greatest learning and then growth paths in my career were
Yeah.
literally being with customers and doing everything. You see things, feel things, hear things, smell things. There's things in the, you want to be a strategic partner to your customer? Go visit them. What do the customers
Yeah.
look like? What are the customers saying? How do their employees work? What's the shop look like? How are all of these things happening? That's where you can begin to really kind of tie things together.
Have you ever spent time sitting with an agent as a senior leader to look at the tools that they're using? Those are your tools in a contact center. Are they using them as effectively as you thought they were? Like, yes, your sales engineers are telling you things, but do the job.
Yeah.
ML, our CRO, she actually does this. I mean, how often do you get a CRO sit there side by side with an agent, right? To just observe, watch how they're using our platform,
Yep.
provide that feedback back. So like we've got leaders need to do that more. Sitting in the ivory tower doesn't yield you the outcomes that you want.
I totally agree. Tony, this has been absolutely fantastic, man. Number one, thank you for all the golden nuggets and the CTAs and just the general
Yeah, of
ideas for all of us to
course.
take away. Before I let you go, sir, before we wrap up today's episode, where can people reach out and connect with you if they want to learn more about some of the things that you're doing at Avaya? And then where can people learn more about Avaya?
Yeah, sure. Of course. Via online social channels. You can go to our website, avaya.com. You can connect with us on LinkedIn. You can connect with me on LinkedIn. Um, we're readily available. We're accessible. We got a really pretty large team of people, so there's definitely someone who's going to be available to support you, help you answer some questions. So we're here to share a little bit more about what we're doing. You see me get pretty animated. I'm excited.
No, I love it,
Uh,
man. This is all.
I
You
love what I do.
gotta love what you do. You
Um,
can tell you do, man.
and I love the team that I worked with, the partners that I have got across the different cross-functional organizations. So we're excited about what we're doing here. We're excited about this new Avaya, and we can't wait to see what our customers do with our products and how they bring these experiences to life. The one thing that I will leave, because I know this nugget is important to you, especially as you got people that are maybe earlier in career thinking about their own career progression. And I go back to the point that you made. Don't be afraid to ask for the opportunity. Obviously, be gritty, work hard, but don't be afraid to ask for the next opportunity. Do it with a sense of humility. And by the way, don't expect an immediate outcome.
Yep.
It's
Yep.
sometimes those requests, it's just saying, I want to do more. You don't have to give me the opportunity now, but at some point, just remember me. And people do remember that. So that's my nugget for anybody who's maybe trying to find their path in this space is don't be afraid to reach up into the higher levels of the organization and build relationships with people. Um, there are good leaders out there who want to connect with humans at all levels in the organization.
I love it. Tony Lama, thank you so much for joining us on the CX Chronicles podcast. It's been our pleasure, my friend.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Thanks,
Appreciate
Tony.
it.